mừng quý vị trở lại với Podcast Cuộc sống và định cư Canada. Nếu quý vị đang có ý định định cư tại Canada hay đã và đang sinh sống tại xứ sở lá phong, hãy theo dõi podcast tại YouTube Podcast và Spotify nhé. Đây là Jenny. Canada là quốc gia có trữ lượng dầu mỏ lớn thứ 3 trên thế giới. Trữ lượng dầu thô của Canada nhiều gấp 2 lần so với Nga và gấp 5 lần so với Mỹ. Quý vị cứ tưởng tượng hiện tại người dân Canada đang ngồi trên khoảng 170 tỷ thùng dầu. Sản lượng sản xuất dầu của Canada đứng thứ 4 trên thế giới và ngành công nghiệp dầu khí đóng một vai trò rất quan trọng đối với nền kinh tế của đất nước Canada. Làm việc trong lĩnh vực dầu khí, đặc biệt là những công việc on-site rất là vất vả nhưng thu nhập cũng rất là cao. Hôm nay Jenny mời được anh Ian tham gia chương trình podcast này để chia sẻ với quý vị những thông tin về các công việc trong lĩnh vực dầu khí tại Canada. Xin mời quý vị lắng nghe nội dung của podcast này nhé. Thank you Ian for taking your time to join the podcast today. I really appreciate that. And how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
As I know, you used to work in finance for like more than 20 years, and recently you moved to oil and gas. So the first question is, what makes you change the career from the finance to oil and gas, like from very much different between two jobs like that?
Two very different ends of the spectrum. I think for me, it was just, I was tired of sitting behind a desk inside all day, and not that I wasn't engaged. I just wanted to try something else, enjoy the outdoors. I don't mind physical work, and I had the opportunity to do so, and so I jumped at it.
How is the difference between the jobs in the office, professional jobs in a very specific field like finance, and some kind of job, very physical work, do manual work all the time? So what is the biggest difference between those two jobs?
I guess the biggest difference is, one is obviously manual labor and working with your hands, working outside, somewhat independent, whereas, the other one is, very, very different. Like you said, it's inside with appointments, usually 1 hour each with clients, and complete opposite ends of the job spectrum.
Could you tell me about like what are your typical days working as a worker in oil and gas field?
A typical day is usually a 12-hour shift. There's a day shift and night shift from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then night shift would be 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Typical day depends kind of on what the job is, but speaking from, I guess, my first job in the field was production testing, where once the oil or gas well is fracked, there's a lot of water and sand and chemicals downhole. Our job was to set up all the piping, the return vessels, the pressure tanks, to bring all of that water and sand and chemical back up from the well hole and to dispose of it, so that once that's all done, the oil or gas well can start flowing into the pipelines so the oil company can make their money. So there isn't really a typical day, but again, it's very safety oriented. So it's monitoring the pipelines, ensuring there's no leaks. The physical part comes from setting up the pipes. They're anywhere from 10 to 20 feet long, 100 to 200 kilos each, hammering unions, tightening connections, things like that.
Oh wow, that sounds very hard work. How do you find you fit in the job with like totally different from your previous career? How do you get familiar with such a heavy physical working conditions?
Um, on the first day, you're pretty tired, and all you want to do is come back to your room and sleep. But with anything, I guess practice and doing it, day in and day out, you get used to it, and your body and your mind adapt to it, and it's just another day of work. They're not all super physical days, but yeah, unlike sitting behind a desk and your biggest decision of the day is what to have for lunch. Out in the field, you're working with a team of guys, and if you're not sure of something, you obviously ask. But they're not always tough days. But setting up the first few days is very, very physical and labor intensive. And then after 2 or 3 weeks of flow back, you have to disconnect all the pipes and joints. And then again, that's the last couple of days are very physical. as you're packing up all the equipment to head to the next job.
That is a really hard work. So, could you please share about the compensations to, like, I think it must be worth, like, to switch your career with the like proper compensations on the work, and so how they compensate for such a job in oil and gas field?
Well, different jobs will get paid differently. An entry level type job is usually paid a day rate, anywhere from $350 to $400 a day. Plus your living allowance is usually anywhere from $50 to $100. And then as you move away from a general labor type job into the more specialized type roles, it could be a day rate, $600-700, or it could be an hourly rate where typically it's time and a half after 8 hours and then double time after 10 hours. So again, it's the industry pays very well, but again, it's not easy work. Away from home, anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. You're in a very remote area, far, far away from any grocery stores or shopping malls, and you're usually in a camp. Yep, in a nice, comfortable room, but typically you're only there long enough to sleep, shower, and then get up for your next job.
So, could you tell me more about, let's say, a life in a camp? So you said that the job normally take a shift, like 12 hours per shift, and then another 12 hour mainly for sleeping. So what is the life? It sounds a little bit boring for me. So what is the life in the camp so far for you?
Yeah, I guess to some it could be boring, but you're there to work, and I guess knowing that you're going home after a certain number of days kind of keeps you going. The food is usually pretty good. You will not go hungry in camp. It's like your own private restaurant. There's fridges. Apart from your breakfast, lunch, and supper, there's fridges with sandwiches. There's full refrigerators that are entirely fruit, another fridge that's full of any kind of pop or juice that you want. And yeah, you definitely won't go hungry in camp. There's usually a games room, there's a movie room, there's a gym. So usually most things that you're familiar with at home are there, with the exception of your family. So it's quite comfortable. And yeah, you make it work for the 3 or 4 weeks that you're there.
That's how they are trying to keep you guys busy. So besides doing some gym and do some watching TV and other stuff, what's other thing that's you guys doing together, like you and your coworker do together when you're not working to keep time go, like, faster?
Sleep.
Sleep. Just sleep.
Different teams, it's a different routine. There are some groups out there that, again, the testers, there's usually 7 or 8 of them. Some functions out in the field, there's only one guy. The guys who look after the water transfer, there's one guy on nights, one guy on days. The company that I work for, there's 2 of us. Well, there's actually 4, so there's 2 on days, 2 on nights. So it varies, but usually once your day is done, you hand it over to the night shift and you clock out and head back to camp, grab your supper. And some guys will go to the gym. Some guys will shoot some pool, and other guys will have a shower and go to bed.
Pretty much sleep more of the time, hey? So let's talk about the qualifications. So what is the qualifications for a guy to get a job in oil and gas at the, for example, like in entry level?
So for an entry level job in the oil field, and this is fairly common across most of the jobs, first you need your first aid and your CPR course. The nature of the job dictates that everybody on site has their first aid and CPR. There's a million things that can go wrong, and everybody needs to be somewhat qualified in responding to certain types of injuries and situations. Second mandatory course that you'll need is your H2S course, which is it's hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide is a deadly gas that is a byproduct of hydrocarbons, and removing it from the ground. You need to know what it is, what to do in an emergency, and how to rescue your coworkers if a leak should occur. H2S is typically known as sour gas. The other 2 courses that you need are WHMIS, which is a course on identifying different types of substances and chemicals that are commonplace out in the field. And the other mandatory course is CSO, which is Common Safety Orientation, which is a course and subsequently an exam that you have to write, just showing that you understand just some basic principles of working out in the field.
Wow, that's a lot of courses to me. So, how long does it take you to finish all the courses before you start the job?
Yeah, to finish the courses and to write the exams, I would say 3 months.
So, besides all of the learning and the courses, what else does a guy need to get a job? Like experience or some physical requirements, something like that?
Yeah, I shouldn't say all, but most oil and gas field jobs do require an element of physical fitness. Usually the pre-employment checks include fitness test, lifting heavy objects, cardio fitness, as well as drug and alcohol testing, which need to be absolutely at zero. Otherwise you will not get hired.
So, how about the experience? Do you need any experience in advance in order to get a job?
Yeah, experience wise, again, if you have, experience in construction, any of the trades, whether it's plumbing, electrical, and any other type of manual labor type job, again, worked on a construction site, worked on a farm, any type of experience that shows that, you can lift heavy things off the ground and you know how to properly use tools of the trade is definitely an asset.
The next question may be a little bit sensitive. Do you know a lot of other than white guy working in the field, like Asian or brown guy, black guy? Or I know this field is a lot of white guys. So do you see a lot of other guy beside white guy working in the field?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's definitely a whole mix out in the field. Yeah, Asian guys, brown guys. Yeah, no different than I would think any other industry. I think I mean, there are certainly more whites than non-whites in the oil field, and I think part of that has to do with maybe the reluctance of, some guys who are maybe new immigrants to Canada who have that kind of manual labor or trade background that they may think that they wouldn't be good at it or they wouldn't be welcomed for some reason. But in my mind, it's no different than any other industry. If, you have a good attitude, you show up ready to work and you're a supportive team member, I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't apply for a job like that.
Yes, that's good to know. As a new immigrant myself, and I have go through a really hard time to find a job, to get my resume screening for just get an interview. So I know that even though people said that there is the fair opportunity of for everybody, as long as you have a good attitude or really focus on the job. But I feel and I experience that still there is the hard time for new immigrants and newcomer coming to Canada to get a job in the corporate. So do you have any advice or experience to tell that how's for example, like a newcomer Asian guy can get a job?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, to show that you're somewhat qualified is to do the courses. The courses that I mentioned earlier are all online. Again, if you're accustomed to doing that sort of heavy manual labor type work, there's a lot of turnover in the oil and gas field because some guys, one, they don't like it, two, they can't handle it, and for whatever other reason, so yeah, there's lots of turnover, usually lots of opportunities, and they're always hiring. So I guess my advice would be first get the courses done to show that you're somewhat invested in that you would want to do something like that, and yeah, just have the right attitude and apply with confidence. And yeah, don't just send in a resume. Like send in a resume, get a contact name at the company you're applying for and follow up. I mean, things are so busy usually that, a name or a resume flashes across somebody's email and it just sits in the inbox or doesn't get replied to. But again, if it's something you want to do, then yeah, make sure you follow up.
That's a very useful information. You mentioned earlier that the jobs mainly is outside, and like this is winter right now, and it's cold. How can you bear on such a cold and snow out there?
You definitely have to dress for the weather, extreme conditions. Unfortunately, it gets extremely cold in northern Alberta and northern BC, typically where the oil and gas wells are. And yeah, for most of the jobs, it is mainly spent outdoors. So yeah, you absolutely have to dress for the weather. There's certainly equipment and safety equipment, coveralls, hard hats, safety glasses that are provided to you by the company usually. But the winter boots, your winter safety gloves, toques, sweaters, that sort of thing, that's all up to you, which are all available at any work store like Mark's Work Wearhouse, rated to usually -60 weather. So, and same goes for the summer, where again it gets very hot, +30 with humidity, even hotter. And so you have to adjust yourself accordingly and be prepared for almost anything. So yeah, it's again, it's not an easy job, but very rewarding if you're inclined to doing work like that.
It sounds like anything can happen on the side. So, have you ever witnessed any kinds of accidents on the side? And I know that you have to have the first aid and a CPR course done. But then, for example, like an accident happens, so is there any medical support right on the side for you guys?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, anything can go wrong. There's a lot of heavy equipment, there's a lot of energy charged equipment, cranes, overhead loads, incredible pressure coming out of the gas wells. There's two medics on site, one day shift, one night shift. They never leave the site in case the need is there for two of them. And we always have a STARS air ambulance number, which is site specific. So if there is, I guess, a life threatening accident, which they do happen, STARS Air Ambulance can usually be anywhere within northern Alberta or northern BC within 20 minutes to deal with the trauma. And fortunately, at this point, I've never witnessed anything that was a life threatening injury. But if you're not paying attention, if you're not following procedure, they absolutely can and do happen. So, which is why all the courses and the safety protocols are in place, is to protect your life.
Thank you. And that is the very hard work, but it's really rewarding. So, for example, like for a guy start at entry level, how long does it take for him to move on in the career to become somewhere like a supervisor?
Yeah, there's so much to know. I guess it all depends on how often the person is working, how inclined they are and if they're paying attention. Yeah, you can move up, kind of from junior field assistant to, a senior operations technician, within a year. But yeah, I guess it all depends on you, how often you're working. Are you staying on top of your learning, which there is continuous learning throughout the job, and your overall engagement while you're at work. It's so easy to be kind of lazy and sit back and watch others do the work, and that gets noticed too. If you're not working, you certainly won't be approached by supervisors to be in line for any kind of pay raise or promotion.
Thank you so much, Ian, for joining me today. It's very interesting to talk to you about oil and gas field. It's absolutely new for me. I wish you all the best in the new career that you are trying to pursue, and you will get more job, have more time on the side, and moving faster in your career path. It's maybe too early to say, but I wish you a Merry Christmas and have a wonderful time with your family during this season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and wish you a Merry Christmas as well.
Thank you everybody for listening this podcast, and I hope these informations will be benefits for you and you to have a better idea about how it's work in oil and gas field. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me at the email or just text me on my Facebook page. Wish you a wonderful day with a lot of joy and positive energies. And if you find my podcast helpful for you, please help me to share so it can reach to more people and subscribe my channel, please. Goodbye for now. See you in the next podcast. Thank you.